What's up guys, Winner Kills here and welcome to a brand new video. Today I'm going to be bringing you guys my first place Drytron deck profile. Last week I took this deck to locals and ended up getting 4-0 with it, so I figured I'd share with you guys the deck profile before the first episode of One Deck One Month goes up, because as you guys know, I will be playing Drytron in that series. And that was actually my second locals with this deck, and we ended up going 4-0, so that feels really good. But the build I'm on currently looks a little bit different than this one, and at the end of the video I'll explain what that list is, what the changes are, and I'll also talk about my matchups, and I'll talk about the side deck. And there are also a few cards that are different in the extra deck than what I played on that Tuesday locals, and I'll talk about what those changes are as well. So stick around for all that at the end. But before we get into the video, if you guys are interested in picking up some of these amazing extra deck sleeves I'm using here with this beautiful border, they are from Imperium Duelist. So if you guys want to pick up some of these for yourself, if they're not sold out already, you can head over to ImperiumDuelist.com, link down below, and you can use my discount code WINNERKILLS10 off at checkout to save 10% off your entire order and support the channel in the process. And they've got all sorts of amazing products on their site as well, other than just these awesome sleeves. And if you guys are buying anything on TCG Player, please don't forget to use my affiliate link to them down in the description below, because if you shop and check out using that link, a small bit of the revenue from your purchase will go right back into the channel, and it helps out a ton. But with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into the quick profile, and then we'll go into the in-depth card by card. Alright, so now we're going to go through the whole deck list one more time, but a lot slower and in a lot more detail. So first and foremost, we have 3 copies of Alpha Thuban, arguably one of the best Drytrons in the deck, hence why we play 3. Contribute another Drytron or Ritual Monster to summon itself from hand or grave, and search a Ritual Monster. So this card searches out Ben 10, Ida 10, can search out Ultimateness, search out your Natasha, Draconids, whatever you need it to, it searches it out. And this plus Ben 10 oftentimes equals full combo, considering you have at least one other Drytron name, or a very easy way to get to another one in the form of Emergency or Nova. But easily one of the best sort of pseudo starters or superior extenders in the deck, hands down, and you definitely need to play 3. Same thing could be said with 3 copies of the Zeta Aldiba, very similar to that of the Alpha Thuban. This card does the same thing, same sort of summoning condition. Contribute off a Ritual Monster or another Drytron, summon itself from hand or grave, but this time it'll search a Ritual spell. So this is going to allow you to search your Meteonis, which in this current build is actually the only Ritual spell that we can search, and I also only play 1 Meteonis, as you guys already saw. Although I really do want to try and experiment with 2 Meteonis, because there's a lot of cool things you can do with 2. Yes, it can cause some inconsistency issues every now and then, but it does give the deck, I feel like, a higher ceiling. And I feel like turns, at least in my personal experience, where you can end with a Meteonis in hand or have very easy access to it, gives you a much better chance at having follow-up for next turn by being able to bring out some of your rituals from grave to make your Drytrons live, because this deck does have a lot of follow-up, but it's only a good follow-up if you have a way to bring your Drytrons out, which means you need Drytrons in hand or field, or Ritual Monsters in hand or field ready to go. So having a Meteonis will definitely help you be able to do that by being able to revive your Drytrons out of grave, or not your Drytrons, but your Rituals out of grave, making your Drytrons live. Then we have 3 Gamma Eltanin. I know a lot of lists really only play 2 of this card. In another list of mine that I'm building right now, I also only play 2. Like, this card arguably isn't that great on its own, especially if you're not getting the revive effect out of it, because this card has the same summoning conditions as Alpha and Zeta. But when this one is summoned, when you activate the effect, it's supposed to summon it, and then it can summon another Drytron from your grave in whatever position. So it's basically a 1-card Mu Beta Fafnir, which is really strong. So if you don't have another Drytron engraved to bring back off of this, it's kind of a vanilla like Delta or Beta can be sometimes if you play Beta. But most importantly, it is another name. which sometimes is the difference between having a play and not having a play, or, you know, having a really good play versus having a kind of mediocre one. So just having more names, seeing more names is very, very important in this deck. Really, sometimes it doesn't matter which name it is, just because if you can get any 2 Drytrons on board, you can access better Drytrons that you need, like Alpha or Zeta. And then if you can do that, you can access your Fairy Engine. So doesn't always matter which Drytrons you see, so long as you see at least 2 or more. Hence why I'm playing more names than what is standard. I'm also running 2 copies of Delta. One of the main reasons I'm not running Prosperity in this build, the build I played in my first locals that I went to with this deck actually was running Prosperity. And I saw a few builds not playing it. I saw some playing it. I didn't like how it conflicted with this card, and I didn't like how it took away a lot of the utility in the extra deck. I definitely don't think it's needed, especially if you're looking for somewhat of a budget option to play this deck. But I really like Delta. The draw that it gives you after you tribute a Drytron or Ritual Monster, you can reveal a Ritual Spell in hand or Ritual Monster and then draw. I really like that effect. It helps you dig for more extenders, and it also can help you dig for side deck cards, games 2 and 3, which is really, really strong. And obviously Prosperity turns this card into a vanilla card, which I am not a huge fan of. But I know some people play Beta. I know Andre Torres played Beta in his build from the YCS South America winning profile. But I don't have the need to try it yet. I may try it in the future as just a one of. But right now I liked this lineup with the 3-3-3-2. So yeah, just more names, the better. So those are all the Drytron names. Now for the Fairy Engine, we played 3 copies of the Diviner of the Herald. This card is really, really good. This deck is very, very hard to play. And a lot of times it can be very tempting when you get your first Ben 10 search to go for this card. But you have to realize that if you play your turn out correctly, you're going to get multiple Ben 10 searches, which means you're searching out multiple light fairies. So if you have something like Orange Light in hand, you don't need to grab Diviner. You could grab an Ava to fuel your hand more, because a lot of times you can use those first couple early Ben 10 searches to give you protection from hand traps, and then when you really need to, you can go for the Diviner to have a normal summon. But this card is insane. If it's normal or special summon, send a fairy monster from your deck or extra deck to the grave. I was actually playing Chaos Ruler in the build that I got first place with. As you saw, there was no Chaos Ruler in this extra deck, instead Black Rose. That's like one of the small changes I made to the extra deck was I was playing Chaos Ruler over Black Rose, because I felt Chaos Ruler helped you dig for more names when you were lacking them, because you could just normal this, send Natasha, and then if you had any Drytron, you could just sink into Chaos Ruler, and load the grade up with fairies or rituals, or load it up with Drytrons. Which was really, really strong. So I like that card for this, but you can also go into Black Rose with this just by sending off a Herald or Entis and then pairing it with any Drytron as well. So if they negate the wrong card, you can punish them very hard with a Black Rose for a board wipe. But yeah, this card's really awesome. You definitely need to play it at 3, just because, like, if you're resolving Eva, you need to be able to resolve it to add 2 Orange Light, and this card included. But yeah, this card is just a crazy extender. It also becomes level 6 to be able to go into Beatrice with, which is really, really important, because Beatrice is a very good extender for the deck. Then next up, we have 3 Herald of the Orange Light. Pardon my commons. Feel free to donate to help me get some beautiful ultimate rares. I'm just kidding. But yeah, 3 Herald of the Orange Light. This is one of the main reasons why you can play going second and why you can play through hand traps, because like I said, a lot of the times you don't need a lot of the light fairies in your hand, or if you do, you can just recur them back if they're ritual monsters off Meteonis. So like this card just lets you play through hand traps, negates Drolls, Nibiru's, Ashes, etc., and allows whatever card you need to go through. And it's also really important fodder for ultimateness or perfection, whichever you're playing. I've seen some lists play 2, but like, why would you not want to open this card with another fairy going first, just to be able to stop a Droll, a DD Crow, Ash, Valor, whatever it may be? Like, why would you not want to open this card as often as possible? Even if you see 2 together, it's still a live monster negate. And even if you get Dark Rulered or Dropleted, sometimes you can end with like a 2 or 3 material Appaloosa in your hand by having a lot of Orange Light fuel, and if you have an Eva too. And speaking of Eva, however you want to pronounce it, we have 2 copies. This card In my current build, I'm experimenting only playing 1, but I do really like 2. It's kind of like very risky though, because you use the first one at the beginning of your combo to kind of fuel your hand for hand trap protection or just extension by adding Diviner and Orange. And you know, you're usually sending the second one or the first one if you didn't send the first one during your turn on your opponent's draw phase off your Beatrice. And the only reason I don't like that, it's a little risky, because if they have Droplet, you know, you're not getting your Eva to the grave, which means you don't have enough negates in hand for your ultimateness. And you're not getting orange light fuel in your hand to, you know, be able to continue to interrupt them even if your ultimateness is negated. So, I mean, like, you could argue that if they're dropleting your field at the start of your turn like that, like, you're gonna be in a bad spot regardless. But if you're not relying on dumping Eva in their draw phase or standby phase, whatever it is, to play around Talents and Valor, like, then, you know, like, you're not going to lose as hard to the droplets. You know, you should be trying to play around those cards. So that's one of the reasons why I've seen why some people play 1. I know Dominic Couch specifically was playing 1, and I've been trying 1, but I still like the comfort of 2, just because it can search Diviner and Orange, which is really strong in its own right. So, and it's also level 1, so if you need to normal summon it with any Drytron, you can, to be able to go into Mu Beta. And then we play, I think, the standard 5 rituals, 1 Draconids. This card's actually crazy on its own. You can side this out going first, because you're usually not going to summon it going first, but you can technically if you can't get to your ultimateness. It's basically just like a double send on the opponent's turn, and it's kind of like a UCT as well. It can attack all special summon monsters your opponent controls once each, and at 4,000, this can crash with a Dragoon, or just get over 1 outright, or just wipe an entire field. Really, really strong card. And then we played the 1 Ultimatus, of course. You've got to play this, or Perfection. Ida 10 adds a ritual from grave or hand when ritual summon, not a once per turn. Ben 10, we all know what Ben 10 does. This card is absurd. Although, as absurd as it is, you have to be careful with this card. You know, if you're going to start with just Alpha Ben 10, you better prepare for the worst. Don't always assume this card is going to go through, because people are going to ash it. If they're smart, people are going to try to DD Crow it. Make sure you can't keep abusing it. So if you can, try to bait hand traps first with Emergency Nova or Prep. Things like that, right? Or Prosperity if you're playing it. And then if you have in hand the protection for it, like Orange and another Fairy, then you can be confident in going for this, because you know that it's going to resolve unless they have multiple hand traps. Then Natasha. A lot of people like this card, a lot of people don't, but I like this card specifically for A, the life point gain, but B, this card just rips apart the opponent's field and allows you to make a Boral Sword or Access Code and just absolutely blow their back out. It's absolutely absurd, the amount of cards I've stolen with this card, and just made IP into Boral Sword, and just proceeded to ruin people's day. Like, it's an insane card. Definitely worth playing, but also not necessary. So if you're looking for room and you don't want to play Natasha, then you can definitely cut it. First spell, here we have our 3 Nova. Basically like a Hero Lives, but you know, you don't have to pay half your life points for Drytrons. Interestingly enough, if they negate this card's activation, you can just go ahead and play another one, because it says, you know, you can only activate 1 Drytron Nova per turn. So if the activation gets negated, you can go ahead and fire off another card. So most of the time this card will go through, especially if they know how to read. But yeah, this card is one of the best extenders in the deck. Would never play any less than 3. Would never side out one of these unless I had good reason to. Maybe if you were siding in Phantasme, because Phantasme can help boost consistency, but even then I wouldn't side it out. 3 Cyber Emergency, just lets you search any Drytron. And then if this card gets negated, the activation of this card is negated, you can basically add this card to your hand, and then discard a card, or discard a card and add this card to your hand, and you can basically play it again. And that's if they negated the activation. So really, really crazy card, just more consistency. So another 6 Drytron names, if you will, on top of the 10 or 11 we're already just showing. And then after that we have 3 pre-prep, but just regular preparation of rights, not a once per turn. It adds Ben 10, Ida 10, can add Perfection if you're playing it, adds Natasha, but the thing I like the most about this is it can add back your Meteonis from the grave without having to drop one of your monsters by 1,000 or having to use Ida 10. This card is just bonkers. I don't know why you wouldn't play 3 of this card. Then I played 3 Dark Ruler, just because I wanted sort of like an insurance policy in the main deck if I lost die roll and had to go against Dragoon Turbo, which Dragoon on its own right is not a problem. But Appaloosa is a huge problem for this deck. It's kind of like an FTK if you don't have the cards to deal with it. So maining something like Dark Ruler, Droplet, or Talents to deal with that card is very much warranted. Right now I'm trying out Talents. I've played Prosperity. I kind of like it, I kind of don't, and I really do want to try Talents moving forward because that card does help you play through hand traps. And even if you open really busted in the hand trap, you just punish them by ripping a card out of their hand and putting it back into their deck. Or you can steal a Dragoon and just kill them that way. Really fun, right? Then we have Drytron Fafnir. This is basically just another name. I think this would put us up to 18 names total. You have the 11 monsters, the 3/6 Nova Emergency. That would put us to 17. This is 18 because you can play this, use it to get Meteonis, or you can use it to go ahead and grab Nova, which is also basically just another Drytron name. And then some one-ofs I played. One Call By. I played the 1 Meteonis, which I still want to try a second one of these. And I also mained the 1 Twin for that tournament, just because I didn't want to lose to main decked Mystic Mine. I also wanted to be able to have, a quick play spell in hand to be able to have a better time against like Tri-Brigade decks, any back or heavy decks, because we do have a lot of control out locals, and it's also kind of an out to order if I see it at the same time they see their order, because it is a quick play. So that is it for the main deck. Into the extra deck now. We'll start with the fusions. We just have 1 Entis. I feel like this card is kind of mandatory to play because there was an example, not at the locals I got first place with, but the following locals that I played in. I got hit with an order, and I had a Diviner in hand. I had to normal to dump this to out the order, but if I didn't have this in the extra deck to out the order, I was just losing that game 100%, but luckily this card came in clutch and made a Feather Duster live the following turn to basically blow the opponent's back out, if you will. So 1 Entis, definitely worth playing. Then we have 2 Arclights. I know a lot of builds will probably play 1 of this, but you can hard make this card rather easy. You can dump Ava off of your Diviner and then summon any Drytron or normal an Ava or whatever, and then Synchro into this. It gets you an Omni Negate and gets you a Search in the process, which is kind of crazy. And I like having this card as a turn 3 follow-up. I find like you can have a lot more better plays like if you have another one of these in your deck, because a lot of times going first you're going to send one of these, and if you can have a second one in the extra deck to fuel another Diviner, like you can usually just secure the game that way. Then the 1 Black Rose, and as I mentioned earlier, I played Chaos Ruler instead of this card. In theory, I would like to be able to play Black Rose and Chaos Ruler, because Chaos Ruler helps you see more Drytron names with subpar hands. Again, using Diviner and any Drytron to be able to go into it, just using Diviner to dump Natasha because it becomes a level 7. Get a Drytron on field to go into Chaos Ruler. Load the graveyard up with hopefully a bunch of Drytrons. And then maybe hit an Eva to add some hand trap protection. But Black Rose is also really nice because, again, if your opponent negates the wrong thing and you're going second, you can just punish them by going into a Black Rose, or you can just use it to put game on board because it is a nice 2400 beater, regardless of whether you blow up the field or not. Now we'll go into the Ixies monsters, and first and foremost, the one and only Drytron Mu Beta Fafnir. 2+ level 1 monsters. When you ritual summon, you can attach a materials from this card as a monster or monsters required for the ritual summon. You can only use each of the following effects of Drytron Mu Beta Fafnir once per turn. If this card is Ixie summoned, you can send 1 Drytron card from your deck to the graveyard. So this card literally accesses your entire deck, so definitely a reason to play 2, as I've heard other people say as well, and I've definitely not regretted playing a second one. Then it says, if this or when your opponent activates a spell/trap card while you control Machine Ritual Monster, aka Draconids, being the only one that we play. Quick effect, you can detach material from this card and negate the activation. If you do, destroy that card. That comes up sometimes. because Draconids will require you to use 2 Drytrons because they have 2,000 attack apiece, and Draconids has 4,000. So if you're going to go for the Draconids play with Mu Beta, you're going to want to make sure you at least have a material underneath this to make sure the Spell Trap Negate is alive. Something I forgot a few times playing this deck as well, but I am still new. And then this card also allows you to go into Downard, which into Zeus, for a 2/4 material Zeus, which sometimes can clear the game up on its own. Downard for Zeus, and Beatrice for just like crazy extension. Gets you, you know, an Eva to the grave during your turn. Search Orange Diviner. Gets you more Drytron names, gets you whatever you need to the grave, and during your opponent's turn, it can just be a toolbox to send more names or an Eva for more negation fodder, or as like a plan B if your board gets hit with a Dark Ruler or something like that. Beatrice is really, really nice, which we could play multiple. Then we have one Zeus. You gotta play the Zeus. This card is so good. There's been times where this card has single-handedly won me games because I didn't have the best board to end on, and ending on a 4 material Zeus sometimes is just enough as having the ultimateness in play or the perfection. So definitely got to play the Zeus. Then into our links, we have one Link Karibo, and the only reason we play this card is because let's say you open up like Nova plus like Ben 10, right? You can Nova out Alpha, but Alpha can't tribute from field to summon himself to the field since, you know, he's already there. You can only summon from hand or grave. So Link Karibo lets you just get them into the grave for free. You don't want to do that always because you'll just play right into Phantasme, so be very careful when you make this. This deck doesn't get hurt by Phantasme that much, but if you make Link Karibo at the incorrect time, it could definitely punish you. Then I played one Mirage Light. I think for the tournament I played Appaloosa instead. And my other friend who was on this deck for a little while, actually for a long time, we were having some back and forth discussion about Appaloosa and Mirage Light. I was very much pro Appaloosa and he was very much pro this card, and after hearing his reasonings and, you know, testing it myself in practice, I do find this card to be a little bit better because Appaloosa is definitely not needed turn 1. I still think it's a strong turn 3 follow-up if your board gets broken. Helps to play through Nibiru and any other cards they may have. Really good in the mirror match too as well, because Appaloosa is just crazy against this deck, you know, especially with 3 or 4 materials. Like, how are you going to play around that with no Dark Ruler or Chalice, right? But Mirage Light is really solid because it has the wording on it that says, if this card in your possession is sent to your graveyard by an opponent's card, you can add up to 2 ritual monsters and or ritual spells with different names from your grave to your hand. So the recovery this card offers is like impeccable, and I think playing it for that reason is good enough alone. And it also is a spell and trap negate by pitching a fairy quick effect as well, so it can be okay for that. I mean, you're not really going to be using that if you have your ultimateness set up, but if you don't have a way to ultimateness, like, this can be like the next best thing. You get at least a negate for a spell or trap. Any orange lights you have in hand can do their job, and then if this dies, you can recur to have a really strong follow-up. Then we play one IP Masked Arena. The only reason I play this card is just because, like, a lot of times you can end with like a Mu Beta and any other random Drytron or any other random 2 Drytrons. You can go into this in Link Karibo, or you can go into Mirage Light and just leave the Mu Beta there. So like, this card is also good for the things that you take with your Natasha. You can just link them off into this. Or if you're playing Talents and you need to like take a Dragoon, you need to link it off so they don't get it back. IP Masked Arena is a really, really good card to do that also. And then we have some other generic links, one Nightmare Phoenix and one Unicorn, obviously for IP Masked Arena targets, because Unicorn is just really, really good. If they only have one follow-up, and you can just shuffle it back into the deck. A lot of times that's just game. And one Boral Sword to go for the OTK. Yes, you can play Access Code Talker. I don't have it, but I find Boral Sword in some cases does a better job at going for game than Access Code does, especially if you're using Natasha. You don't need the board wipes that the Access Code would offer, because Natasha's just taking everything they have and then you're poking them for 6,000 with this card alone, and then you're just beating them to death with their own monster that you took off Natasha, all while gaining life points. Now we'll throw the side deck up on the screen real quick. I think it was 3 Nibiru, 2 Contact Seed, 3 Bell, Lancia, the Blizzards, Twins, and like the Imperms. The side deck was okay. really not that special. I think my current side deck is much better with like Phantasme and Drone Locks, just because like Phantasme is so good. Like I even want to try maining Phantasme. It's such an incredible card for this deck. It helps cycle bad hands and just like gives you a good body on field to protect from like effects that target. Like it's just a really strong card all around, especially with my local meta. Really good. Contact C I think is really good. But yeah, I think the side deck was okay. Definitely not that good. Blizzard is a little side deck tech of mine, mainly just to help stop Dark Ruler and Droplets, because those are some of the only cards that you really lose to at the end of the day. It definitely beats Dark Ruler 100% of the time, and it beats Droplets only if they don't discard a spell, which sometimes they won't, right? It's not always 100% guaranteed that they're going to ditch a spell for the Droplet, but if they do, they do. It is whatever, and then you can still use the Blizzard to bounce back any power spell like Meltdown, Shaddoll Fusion, Nadir Servant, Red Eyes Fusion, you name it. You can just bounce it back and negate it. So yeah, that was the side deck, and my matchups, I believe, round 1, I played against Cyber Dragon 1-2-1. Round 2, I played against Phantom Knight 1-2-0. Round 3, played against another Cyber Dragon player. We have a lot of Cyber Dragon players. Our locals 1-2-1 there. And round 4, I played against Virtual World and 1-2-1 as well. So those are the matchups, and that's going to do it for this video. If you guys want to see more of my content, click on one of these videos down here and subscribe if you haven't already. And we'll see you guys in the next one. And like always, I want to give a special thanks to our Divine level channel members who go above and beyond to support, and they are Cadillac City 4, Pony Stark, and Keith Siggers. Thank you guys so much, as always, for your generous support.